Welcome back to another video, and in this one I'll be opening this box here. This is the Hornby eLink and it comes with Hornby's Railmaster software, and this is what we'll be using to control all of the Locos that we fitted with DCC controllers in the last video. I'll be taking you through opening the box, what's inside and the entire process to get set up and control our first Locos with DCC. So let's get to it. Okay, so just what's included with the Hornby eLink? Well, we have the eLink itself, of course, a power supply, there's a USB cable, track connection wires, the Hornby Railmaster installation disc, the Hornby Railmaster and eLink quick start guide, as well as a couple of other pieces of paper, and of course we'll also be needing the laptop, some track and the Locos that we fitted last episode. The first thing I'm doing is soldering some wires to some spare track. Although there are some connectors included, I want a good reliable connection. So I have two spare lengths of track and some wire, one to be the programming track and the other to be the test track. Next, I'll attach each track to the eLink and move on to the software. So, over on the laptop, it's time to install the Railmaster software. This is included on a disk with the eLink. However, I haven't owned a computer with an optical disk drive for probably 10 years, so we'll need to download it. If I go to Hornby's website, support, and then product support, halfway down here we have Hornby Railmaster. This page seems to only talk about the Elite controller, which can use the same software. And this is my first clue that the eLink isn't Hornby's finest product, and these screenshots are looking pretty dated. But on we go. Down at the bottom of the page, we have a link to the download, which is marked as an evaluation copy. It's a bit misleading, but it is the full version. It just requires an activation key to unlock its full functionality. Attempting to download this software, however, presents a warning that this file cannot be downloaded securely. You need to click the three dots here and select Keep, and then Keep Anyway. And after another warning about not being able to trust the download, we click the three dots and select Keep once again. Then from the drop down here, we select Keep Anyway, and then finally the software is downloading. Now, if we go to the Downloads folder, we can see the Railmaster setup program, and after some more warnings and language selection, accepting a license agreement that no one ever reads, and giving it a location to install to, it finally installs onto the computer. Now, before I go any further, I'm going to take a look at the documentation. And in the Railmaster guide, I hope I can learn what I'm supposed to be doing. Now in big red text, it tells me to read this guide first. But at 150 pages long, I'm just going to skim the basics in order to get going. Setting up your Hornby controller. Here on page 14, it mentions the eLink controller as well as the two other compatible controllers in the range, the Elite and the Select. It also says just below that these instructions assume you're using Windows XP, which is 24 years old at this point, and my laptop here is running Windows 11, but it has installed just fine so far. There's no denying that this software is looking very dated. Moving on to the section on controlling locomotives, there is a breakdown of what each on-screen control does, and how to make them move. And here on page 69, we finally learn how to read and write CVs, which are the configuration variables we can change to make the Locos have different behaviours. According to this page, Railmaster can quickly and easily read and write CVs to and from your Locos, and explains how to do this. But then mentions over the page that it can take over an hour to read all 1023 CVs, even though most decoders only have CVs up to 255. So quickly and easily may be an exaggeration on Hornby's part, we will see. This shield here lets me know that I need to run this software as an administrator of the computer. So if I right click and choose Run as Administrator, I'll get a pop-up asking if I want to trust the software. I click yes, and the software will open. It now informs me that it can't communicate with the DCC controller as it's not yet plugged in. So what I'm going to do now is plug in the USB cable to the controller, the USB cable to the laptop, and add the power. And this should allow the controller to now talk to the software. And as we wait for that to load, we get a green symbol up in the top here. This tells us that the controller is now talking to the laptop. So now with the software installed, the hardware set up, it's time to add our first locomotive to the track, and we're going to use Thomas as our first test subject. So I'll pop Thomas on the programming track, click on Set Up Locomotives up in the top menu here, and Railmaster initialises my locomotive list, which is currently empty. Next, we select Locomotive Settings, and this green tick is the Get CVs button, which should read the current CV values from Thomas. It informs me that I need to specify what loco I am asking it to read from. So here I find Thomas in the included database and assign the ID of 1. Railmaster now tells me the process will take around 26 minutes to complete the reading process. So I select yes, and I'll head off to make a coffee while the software does its thing. When I returned 6 minutes later, the process was complete. I suspect this is due to Thomas having a very basic decoder fitted, and there are not many CVs that it needs to read. The message here about not finding a locomotive ID 1 in the database is expected as we haven't saved it yet. The CV list is showing the primary address as 3. We want that to be 1, so I'll change that here, and after a quick scan of the CV list, which is mostly empty, we click Write CVs to the loco, and it writes and then confirms the new value, and Thomas should be ready for testing. I'll just click Save Loco Details, and Thomas is added to my list of locos. And when I close these windows, Thomas appears with controls on the right of my screen. Let's move him from our programming track to the test track. Select Reverse, and give him some power, and there he goes. Now forwards, and look at that, our first DCC controlled loco. Now, the beauty of DCC control is the ability to have multiple locos on a single track, but individually controlled. So let's add a second loco. For this, I will add our Heljan Class 07 shunter to the programming track. Repeat the process. There's no matching loco in the database for this one, so for now I'm selecting the Class 08 and changing its number in the name field. I set its ID to 7, and after saving it into the database, I'll add this to the test track along with Thomas. So, as I switched this loco to the other track, the eLink decided to disconnect itself. Unplugging and plugging it back in gave me the connected indicator at the top right of the screen. However, I now couldn't control either loco. It actually took me restarting Railmaster, poking around in the settings, unplugging and reconnecting the eLink, and then restarting Railmaster a second time to finally get the software to talk to the eLink again. I'd like to say this has been unusual, but unfortunately it's been a common issue while I'm trying to record this video. Now it's all back up and running. However, our second loco still won't respond. But Thomas is working, so I'm unsure if this is due to the software or something with the loco. When I try to read the CVs again, I get an error. So I've set aside this loco for now, and instead we'll read the CVs from Mallard. Luckily the process completes without any issues, but it took 36 minutes for this one, which has been fitted with a more complex decoder. I assign its ID, its name, and save it to my loco list, and then moving it over to the test track, we can see that this time the loco responds to its commands. So, It seems that so far, it's a bit hit and miss getting this system to work. I can't be sure if a non-running Class 07 is due to the eLink, the Railmaster software, or the Decoder. But as I add more Locos, I end up with 3 that fail to run. Interestingly, they're all fitted with Hornby's own decoders. So these will require some investigation as to why they don't work. But for now, that's the system and the Locos as set up as I can make them. Would I recommend the Hornby system? I have to say no. This system, the eLink and Railmaster, even as a person who's very tech capable, I'm honestly surprised it's still available direct from Hornby, and I can't wait to replace it with a system that actually is usable. I'm looking into using another system from DCC-EX. If you have any knowledge of the DCC-EX system, or any advice for Railmaster, or an alternative, please leave them in the comments. Next time, I'll be getting back to working on the track itself. There's points to set up and ballasting to be put down. That's all for now. Thanks for watching. Please like and or subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one.